Okay, hello to video number 3 on my YouTube channel. So, this is your third video. This means you have arrived in China. So the first video was everything you need to know about getting a job here, doing the paperwork and so forth. The second video was your packing and little tips for when you're here. So here is a video to help you once you've arrived. So you made it here, you're at the airport. You should have somebody from your school pick you up. They should have arranged this, told you or whatever, or they should have arranged a car service for you. But most of the time there'll be a teaching assistant that will pick you up, or maybe one of the teachers or something like that. What's important is most of the places will have an assistant that is responsible for taking care of you if you have problems with how to pay your electric bill, if you have to do that, or where to buy water, where to buy groceries, or you have to go to the hospital. All these things the teaching assistant or the assistant is supposed to help you with. My first year here, I had absolutely no help. The teaching assistant, needless to say, had her head up her ass, and I'm going to be blunt about that. And I learned everything by trial by fire, basically. It was my lights went out, and I had no idea how to pay my electric bill, and I had to go around and send messages to a half dozen people who said, oh, you have a little card, and you have to go to an ATM type machine, and you put the card in, and you load it with money, and then you come back, and then you swipe it in the building, and it puts your electricity back on. And when I called the assistant, she got real huffy and said, well, don't you know how to do this? And can't you speak with somebody in the building? And I was like, no, we don't do this in the States, and I don't speak Chinese. So how am I, how can you expect me to know these things unless you tell me? So this is another reason why I'm doing these videos, to kind of help you guys out. So anyway, I'm going to give you a little what happened when I got here. They picked me up at the airport. We went to the apartment, dropped off my bags and all my stuff, took me by the school to show me where it was, and I was lucky. It was a 10-minute walk to the school from my apartment. And then they took me to lunch, and then they said, okay, show up tomorrow at 7 a.m. and you're going to start teaching. Literally, they threw me into the classroom at 7:40 that morning. Okay, there was no prep, no nothing. And I said, well, what am I teaching? She goes, teach whatever you want. Needless to say, the company I worked for didn't have a program. They didn't have an idea. I designed the program. I got it started for them. But I had to do it from scratch. Had they told me this ahead of time, I could have worked on it on the plane, at least gotten the first couple lessons done, but they didn't do that. So, like I said, it was a trial by fire. So some things you need to do. Ask the school before you arrive when you're going to start teaching. So let's say you get here Monday, whatever the date is, in the morning, and you say, look, you're going to show me to my apartment. When am I going to be expected to start teaching? And are you going to provide me with books, curriculums, paperwork, this, that? How does this work? Hopefully most of the schools will allow you to shadow another teacher, maybe for a few days, a week, until you get the ropes, figure it out and that type of thing. And they should have some plans, but in China, planning is a loose term. And you need to get prepared to do things basically on the seat of your pants. Just, boom, do it. And I'll give you an example. I was invited, or I should say the school asked me to travel to another province in southern China to teach a 3-day seminar to middle school students who were traveling to the United States. It basically was, it's several hours each day. We want you to talk about everything you can think of about traveling to the United States, the culture, the food, how they can get around, where should they go, how do they talk to the customs people when they go through customs, they're checking their passport and their visa, all these things. So I prepared everything the week ahead of time. I was ready to go, had all my material on a thumb drive, on my computer. I'm ready to go, and I go into the class, and there's, 50, 60 students. And the lady who was their teacher says, oh, good, get up on stage and tell us everything it is to travel, or everything you need to know about traveling to Australia. And I said, I've never been to Australia. And she says, well, it doesn't matter, get up and teach it anyway. And that's what I had to do for the next 3 days. basically all my material was useless. So that is something that happens very, very often. Okay, just be ready for it. And my only advice is to ask lots of questions, be a pain in the ass, and say, I need to know exactly what you expect of me. A to Z, 1 to 10, what is the exact parameters of what I have to teach, what I have to do, where I have to go, how long it's going to be, because if you don't, they're going to, basically take advantage of you, like they did with me, okay? So, be prepared to go to a lot of dinners, and you won't have to pay. They're going to invite you and say, oh, come with us, and there's going to be lots of people. They're going to introduce you to all these people that you're never going to remember. Chinese love to show off their foreigner friends. It bumps them up in the social status ring, okay? My first few months, I'd say I got here end of February 2016, and I would say by May I went to 40 big dinners with 12 to 25 people in attendance. And here's what happens. They say, okay, show up at this address at 6 p.m. for dinner. Okay, I show up at 5:45. No one's there. I'm sitting in the room. It's a big room with a round table, Lazy Susan in the middle, maybe 15 tables or chairs around the table, and I'm waiting. And the first person shows up at 6:15, and they're usually the person who is hosting the dinner, and they start ordering food. The food starts coming out, and they put it on the table, and you have to wait for everybody to arrive. And usually by 7, that's when people start arriving, and you start eating at 7:15, and this goes on for 2.5 to 3 hours. Typical Chinese dinner like this is going to be 2.5 to 3 hours. And it's going to be a repetition of people standing up, toasting, walking around the table, doing a little toast to each person and drinking their little, basic moonshine, okay, baijiu. And, oh, thank you so much, I'm so honored to be with you, blah, 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 blah. And they do this, and they go around, and every person at the table is expected to do this, okay? Instead of just doing one toast, oh, everybody, I'm happy you're here, and I'm happy, blah, blah, blah. No, every person gets their own little show, okay? So at this point, it's say 10:30, 11 o'clock, and you think, okay, dinner's done. No, it's time to go to KTV. So you either pile in their cars, or you walk, or take a taxi, and you go to the KTV place. KTV basically is a karaoke place. They rent a room. A room with sofas and chairs and whatever, coffee table type thing, and they fill it with snacks and beer and whiskey and all sorts of things, and you basically get to listen to people screech into a microphone at full volume for the next 3 to 5 hours. So just remember, dinner is going to be about 3-4 hours, KTV is going to be 3 to 5 hours. So your evening that you thought, oh, I'm going to go there at 6 and be home at 8:30, that's not going to happen. Okay, you're going to be getting home at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Okay, so I pretty much stopped accepting invitations to dinner a year and a half ago. After the first year, I just couldn't take it anymore, because you're being invited, and they're very gracious and they're very generous, but you feel obligated and you're stuck. It's not like you can say, okay, I'm done eating, I'm going to get out of here. It doesn't work like that. You got to sit there and you got to be engaging with them, and it's very exhausting. And another little point is, most places in China, houses, businesses, restaurants, are very hot and stuffy and uncomfortable. Not to mention they're smoking, and Chinese cigarettes are far worse than American ones. So you're in a small room, it's loud, there's smoke, it's hot. You can't get a cold drink because Chinese don't drink cold drinks, so you're very uncomfortable. So I recommend go to a few of these to learn how it works, and then just say, oh, I got to prepare for work, I'm too tired or whatever. That's a good way to get out of it. Okay? They love to drink alcohol, but they don't know how to drink alcohol properly. They will take a glass of wine and shoot it like a shot glass of tequila. Okay? They'll do that with beer too. They feel that the fastest person drinking, and the more they can drink, the more of a man or a person or more, I'm a bigger person than everybody else because I can drink more moonshine than this person. And they will fall down, puke on their shoes, drunk. Okay, and I'm not saying this is everybody, but it's fairly common. Okay, you'll walk down the street and the biggest thing you see is people stumbling all over them places at midnight, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever. Okay, so, another thing, at the dinner, after everybody's finished eating, don't be surprised if they ask you to stand up and sing a song or dance for them. Okay, they like to perform. And this goes back into the KTV. They want to get in front of people. They want to be the center of attention. They want to sing. They want to dance. They love this showmanship. It's just unreal how it is. All right. So the next section I call uncomfortable questions. Okay. Typically, in the U.S., you don't ask somebody how old they are, how much they weigh, how much money they make, sexual orientation. Are they married? Are they single? Unless you know them or you're interested in dating them, you don't ask these type of questions, okay? So I will soon be 44 years old. At the end of May, I'll be 44, and I get asked all the time, how old are you? How old are you? I mean, I look older than I really am, grayed, bald when I was 25, 26 years old. It's just the way it is. Nothing you can do. But you will get asked how old you are. The older you are, the more respect they will give you. This is a nice thing, okay? The next thing is your weight. This is a huge deal in China because pretty much every American is fat to them, okay? I'm 6'3", 235 pounds or so. Yeah, I could lose some weight, but I wouldn't say that I'm fat or obese or whatever, but okay, according to them I am. And I am in China. That's just how it is. If they're being polite, they won't call you fat. They'll call you strong. Just a little tidbit of information there. All right, so the next uncomfortable topic or question is, how much money do you make? What's your job? Now, what's your job is not so rude or, taboo in America, but they want to know how much you make. And I mean, what do you take home every month? So, and they will ask this just flat out, no problem. And you've met them, maybe you're sitting at dinner and 3 minutes later, they're going to ask you about your income. They measure everything by money. A person's importance is, oh, he's a doctor, he makes this much money. Oh, he's a teacher, he makes this much money. And I've said this before, a teacher is pretty much number 2 in China when it comes to respect or noble professions. Doctor and teacher, judge and teacher are kind of number 2. But if you're a teacher, you're going to get they're going to be impressed. It's a very high status job. Okay. All right. Next is your relationship status. Okay. I am single, or I was. I do have a girlfriend now, but for most important, I'm not married. So why are you not married? You're such an old man. You should be married. It's not good to be alone. Why are you alone? You need somebody to be your wife and this and that and have children and blah, 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 blah. They're going to say this to you and just over and over and over and over. It gets exhausting. Chinese do not ever stay alone. They're never single. Like, you have somebody who's, a confirmed bachelor for the rest of their life. No, it doesn't work like that. There's no such thing as that. You get, you're born, you go to school, graduate university, you get a job, you get married, you buy a house, car, you have a child. That's what you do in China. No exceptions. Okay? Now some people will say, oh, I'm modern and we don't do the old bull. Everyone does this. There's huge pressure from family to get married, to have a wife or a husband, have children. You must buy a house. You must do these things. So they're going to ask you, oh, you're single, so are you going to find a nice Chinese girl or Chinese boy to get married to? Okay? It's just, they're going to ask you this all the time, all the time, all the time. Okay? So remember, being alone in China is something that terrifies Chinese people. They're worried, oh, when I get old, if I get sick, who's going to take care of me? They just don't think I can take care of myself. They just don't think that way. They think they need someone else all the time. Okay, so on to the next topic, which is teaching. Okay, you've come here to work and be a teacher. It's great, you're traveling and everything, but bottom line is you have a job here and that's your responsibility. So, a teacher, once again, is a highly respected position in China. Most students will show a great deal of respect. Depending on the school, they stand up when you ask them a question and these type of things. However, they'll treat foreign teachers a little differently. They'll be a little less, formal, and they kind of look at you as a temporary pet, okay? Sometimes. You don't have much authority. They think what you're teaching them is not important. Oh, it's English, we can learn, it's not important, So you need to go in there, be firm, be direct, but be fair, okay? Don't let them, ride over you, because they will just run right over you if you get the chance. All right, next is cheating. Cheating is, it's a huge deal here. They all cheat. All students. I have caught my A students who had no reason to cheat, cheating, because they could. Okay? Schools and education is a highly competitive thing here. And the one saying I can say is true beyond anything else is the ends justify the means. If they can get a perfect score on a test by cheating, and that helps them get a high test score or a high, entry into a university, they will do it in a drop of a hat. No questions asked. And if anybody disagrees with me, they're full of shit. I have seen this hundreds of times. I've gone into classes and I've honestly had to create 4 to 6 different tests for the same section, like, we take teaching world history about Greece. I have to make 4 different tests with all scrambled up test questions, and they still try to copy off each other. I mean, it's just, this is how it is, okay? There's nothing you can do. You just got to try and do your best to make cheating as difficult as possible for them. But they will do it if they get a chance. Okay, hopefully your school will give you a decent lesson plan and books and everything you need to build your lessons and your classes and things. I never had that. I had to build my own from scratch, and I had a pretty good method. I would do it week to week. If I had a long lesson, let's say 3 weeks, I would do that all in one shot, but I would have just a rough idea of what I would do, and then I would research and pull documents and workbooks and worksheets out and do that type of thing. Okay, topics to avoid. This is China, and there are some things that you do not talk about. First off is religion. Just skip it, okay? It's not a topic the government wants you to introduce. Just leave it alone. Don't talk about like the problems in Tiananmen Square. Don't talk about Tibet. Don't talk about Hong Kong. They get a little touchy about it. China is still a developing country, and throughout their history they've had other countries come in and just take and take and take and take, and it's almost to a point where they have a complex about it, okay, and they want to overcompensate now to make up for those shortcomings in the past. So if you say something like, I think Hong Kong should be independent like Singapore, they're going to go off the handle, okay? So just stay away from those topics. The other thing that can cause problems is Japan. They hate the Japanese, and if you know your history, you'll know why. The Japanese slaughtered millions of Chinese during the war, and it's just this ongoing thing. Now, I feel that it is encouraged to hate the Japanese. Instead of just saying, okay, it's over, we're done, we're a more powerful country now, they just harbor this big thing. I compare it to middle school girls or high school girls. Okay, you have the cute popular girls, and there's 4 or 5 of them, and they're nitpicking and they're bullying some fat, ugly girl, okay? And they do this because they're insecure, and it also keeps the group tight. Because if you have something to focus on to attack, it keeps the group together, and that's how I compare the Chinese hating Japan. I always tell them, what's the difference? They're a little island, they're done. I mean, yeah, they're good on the economy, but you guys are way bigger than the Japanese. Just forget it. But just another topic. Best just to leave out. Okay, let's go to your apartment. So, the majority of schools will provide an apartment with you, which is included in your contract. Now, on my website, I will say some of them will say we'll give you a stipend, which basically means we're going to allot so much money per month so you can find your own apartment. Don't do this. Just don't do it. You don't know how to do it. You don't know, you're going to have to run around your first week or 2 here and look for an apartment, and that's a huge hassle. You're in a foreign land. You should have time to adjust. You want to get here, you want to rest, you want to relax. You already need the apartment set up. Not to mention, some of them will say, okay, you're going to pay for the apartment up front, and we're going to reimburse you over the next year, a little bit every month. In China, you need to pay your rent a year in advance, which means you need to pay your deposit, you need to pay your elevator fees, you need to pay your internet, all these little things, all 6 months to a year in advance. These are things they don't tell you. I'm trying to make it easier. If they provide the apartment, the rent's paid, the electric's on, the water's on. Now, depending on how good a contract you get, they may cover the utilities, or you may have to cover the utilities every month. It really depends on what they're offering you. But don't go with the stipend, because you're going to have to come out of pocket up front and pay. An average apartment where I live is $300 a month, so you're going to have to come up with at least $4,000 for the year out of pocket, and then they're going to give you $300 a month for the next 12 months or whatever it is to compensate you. That's the stipend. Don't do it. I don't like coming out of pocket, because here's another thing. You pay for a year in advance. What if something happens after your second or third month, you have to go back home? I'm going to tell you, you're not getting the money back. They're not going to come out of pocket and pay for an apartment that you're not living in and you're not providing services to them, so don't do it. Just have them provide the apartment. Have them send you pictures of the apartment ahead of time. If you don't like it, tell them, look, this is not to my standard. I need a washing machine. I need this. I need this. Be specific as to what you need. Okay? Now, when it comes to the apartments, my first apartment was a dump. The ceiling was falling down. I'll post pictures on here at one point, but it was terrible. The people upstairs, they had a leaky sink. It came through the ceiling, and it was going on for weeks and I would complain constantly, and finally my company called the landlord. The landlord called the tenants upstairs. They checked it. They turned off the leak. Then my entire ceiling is falling down on my head as I'm cooking, and I'm not joking about this. Water damage all over the wall, the ceiling, the floors, the floorboards, the countertops split from the water damage, okay? So it was a disaster, okay? And I had issues with the contract and the company and all sorts of things. Even to this day, it's just a huge hassle. So I'm trying to pass this on to you. Be specific. Know what you're getting into, okay? And the apartment, my first apartment was about a 24-foot by 14-foot room with a 7 by 7-foot square shower, or bathroom, I should say. Now the bathrooms are all inclusive, which means that you take a shower, you can sit on the toilet and brush your teeth at the same time. I mean, it's two arms, it's an arm length across. That's all it is. Everything drains onto the floor. If your washing machine is located in your bathroom and the water drains out of the washing machine, it's going to flood the floor and drain down the drain, same drain from the shower. Okay, so don't think you're going to get a bath mat and have a nice thing in a separate shower. It doesn't work like that. Now, the apartment that I'm in now, because I work for a new company, a new school, is much nicer. It's a much higher. It's several levels up in price to my first apartment, which was basically, it looked like a renovated Motel 6 room. But once again, be specific, know what you're getting into. The kitchens will be very small, maybe like a coffee table small, okay, with a small sink. Most of the time you won't even have hot water in the sink for the kitchen. You'll have a little hot plate, maybe some pots and pans, a rice cooker, a teapot for hot water, maybe a microwave, and that's it. Now my kitchen here, and once again I'll put pictures up, I've got a gas range, 2 burners, a dual sink, but it is still tiny. I mean, the area that I have for my cutting board is this wide, maybe 18 inches at most. So it's like I'm cutting vegetables and I've got to move things off and everything like that. It's just very tiny. Get used to it. Okay? Let's go on to the next point. So, furniture in your apartment. So you will have a double to king size bed. Ask them the size. Now I have a king, before I had a queen. You'll have a separate wardrobe, not a closet, but a wardrobe where you can put, your clothes and everything like that. Sometimes a dresser. I have a dresser over by my washing machine. You'll have some chairs, a sofa, a TV. Usually the TV are the old tube machines. This apartment, I have a flat screen. I ended up buying a flat screen TV for about $300, a 50-inch. They're pretty cheap, and I just bring it with me. You'll have a fridge in my other apartment. I had, like, in a college dorm, it's like that half little size fridge. I have a regular size fridge in this apartment. And microwave, I had one before, I don't have one now. And you'll have other cooking supplies and little things. Also in the bedroom, the linens are generally provided, so you'll have sheets, pillows, pillowcases, maybe a blanket or 2, those type of thing. I advise, if you're going to use them, wash them first, because what they think is clean when you move into a new apartment is actually filthy by American standards. So just another little heads up. And that is pretty much it for now. I hope that this was helpful, and please remember, if you have any questions, send me a message on here or email me at chinaconsulting@mail.com. If you want, set up a WeChat account, and when you email me, in the reply, in my signature field, I have all my phone numbers, contact, everything. WeChat, feel free to contact me through WeChat. I can send photos of anything you need, but just let me know, and I hope that this is helpful and gives you a little bit more about what happens when you get to China. I will set up another video and try to get my girlfriend Sandy, who, that's her English name, she's Chinese, but I will get her in one of the next videos. I don't know about the next one, but maybe within the next 2 or 3, and she can talk to you guys and tell you what to expect as a foreigner in China from a Chinese point of view. Alright, so I will talk to you guys soon, and have a good day. Bye.